Support comes from BECU, a member-owned credit union putting people over profit, offering financial services and support to the community with access to local financial centers, over 30,000 ATMs, and online resources at becu.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. When an entire community is under attack, what's the right way to signal your support? Sometimes what seems like help can be a hindrance. We're going to listen back to a conversation about this in just a minute, but first, let's get you caught up. A year after sending most of its employees home to work remotely, Microsoft says some can start returning to the office next week. The company said yesterday employees are still encouraged to work from home and shouldn't feel like they have to come in. We'd love to hear from any Microsofties out there about how you're feeling about that. Meanwhile, for those who do go back to the Redmond campus, it'll be face coverings, social distancing, and daily health attestations. Asian American leaders in Washington yesterday said it's time to put an end to anti-Asian bias and violence. There have been at least 3 documented attacks against Asians in King County this year. A youth-led group says it's doing nightly volunteer patrols in Seattle's Chinatown International District to ensure community safety. And one Washington team has advanced and one has fallen in the NCAA March Madness college basketball tournaments. Top-ranked Gonzaga men's basketball team advanced Monday to the Sweet 16 with an 87-71 win over Oklahoma. Different story for the Gonzaga women, who lost 64-59 to the Belmont Bruins Monday afternoon. Violence and harassment directed at Asian Americans has prompted an outpouring of support and calls for action from the president on down. And often when we see something awful happening to our neighbors, we want to help. But sometimes we stumble, and our actions cause harm, even when our heart feels like it's in the right place. I talked with Priska Neely about this last summer. Priska is a journalist, now running the Gulf States Newsroom Project between NPR and a group of public radio stations in the South. She wrote about how it looked from her end in a piece called "Please Stop Checking In to See If I'm Okay." We talked last June.
I just started getting all of these texts that had eerily similar language, like, hey, just wanted to check in, can't imagine the pain you're feeling right now, and that, Black folks are feeling right now, and just wanted to, let you know I'm here for you. And these mostly were texts not from those people that I mentioned, not from that core group of people who I usually go to, but from people I would kind of see in passing at work, like not the person that I'm going to kind of go to if I am having a problem. And at first I just thought, I live in Oakland and the Bay Area is kind of very woke. And I was like, is this just happening to me? And I called friends on the East Coast and I was like, this is so weird because, I had been broken up about Ahmaud Arbery. Like I had all these friends who were going for runs and saying, like I'm running with Ahmaud and all this stuff. So I was like, why is this happening now? What is happening?
Once you realized what was happening, what did you think? What did you think when you realized that this was actually really happening? People you didn't really know were checking in on you because of this tragic situation that had happened.
Yeah, I guess around the same time that I was like looking to see if people were tweeting about this check-in phenomenon, I was also seeing some of these threads that were like, hey, check in on your, POCs this week and, check in on your people of color and, you don't know what they may be feeling. And I was like, oh, that must be what's going on. It's like someone saw this thread and they're like, oh, this is what we should do. And I actually I'm in this leadership program with people in public media. And one of those sentiments was posted in there, like, hey, everyone, just remember to check on your people of color. And like most things in public media, I am one of very few Black people in this group. So I was like, hey, as said person of color, do you mean Black people also? Do you mean Black people? I was just kind of like, hey, I understand the sentiment. I've seen some people recommending this. And I'd just like to say that, like, I understand the intention here, but it's not always what I need. And I'm like, this is my opinion, but like this has been happening to me and it feels kind of disingenuous. sometimes it just feels like you're being singled out on top of already being singled out when there's so many conversations about like diversity and lack of blah. And then I'm like, it's just a weird feeling.
Right. Why this week and not other weeks? And I think, we're at a point in our culture where a lot of white people, for better, are really beginning to see the truths in the racist, biased system. And whatever brought white people to this point, we're trying to do something with it, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to put it somewhere. And you ended up writing a piece that points out that this is not the place to put it. There are better places to put this guilt, discomfort, whatever you're feeling right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote a piece that was kind of like channel this energy elsewhere, perhaps. I understand what's happening. And and the piece was actually kind of born out of a conversation I had with a friend who's like trying to do a lot of anti-racist work. And she was also checking in on me. And because she is not a random person, because she's not a random person, but I know she was responding to this advice that was out there in the social media world. I was just like, hey, just want to throw this into the mix for you and your thinking. And we talked for about 20 minutes about this. And at one point she said, I think what I've realized is that for me, this does feel new. This does feel like a new sense of urgency and outrage. And I was like, aha, that's it. It's new for you. It's not new for me. It's not new for me. I can think about so many other of these shootings and killings that have broken my heart over the years. I've been reporting about these, terrible statistics about Black babies being twice as likely as white babies to die in their first year of life, about Black women being 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than a white woman. I mean, these disparities in killings, in health, in so many aspects of life are like things that I live and breathe constantly. So, why check on me now and not when I was doing a story about infant mortality for a year? You know what I mean? Like,
right. There's a lot of reasons to check on you, Priska.
Yeah, this is not like, and this is really part of like, if you're conscious and if you know your history, it's part of being Black in America. And like, so it was kind of that realization of like, oh, this is new for you and you don't know where to channel this energy. Not just that friend, but like, the fact that it was like adding up, because it was really no one person. The first text I got, it was like, oh, maybe that's nice. And then it just kept happening. And I was like, I don't like this. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just kind of like when it added up. And actually, the night before the piece published, I got another one of these texts. Like, so I was like, it's still happening.
You could argue that sending a text to a Black acquaintance you don't really know, however well-meaning, is just too easy and is not indicative of the work that needs to be done. Ultimately, that there are more effective ways to fight racism. Yeah,
I mean, a question that I ask and I think about in a lot of situations is just, what is your intention? What is your intention in saying that to me? Like, what prompted you? Did you see that thread or listicle or whatever it was and say, oh my God, I just realized that Priska's Black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what was the trigger? And I've had friends, like, since the piece came out, kind of like apologize. And I'm like, okay, I don't need a wave of apology text now. Let's clarify that this is not what I need. And what's the intention? Is it to actually know how I am?
Well, and I love the question you asked in your piece. What would you do if I said I needed your help? Or what would you do if I said I was in trouble?
Yeah.
What are we really talking about here?
Right. Is it checking a box to be like, oh, I checked, I did my due diligence here? Because,
So I'm curious what this whole experience tells you about what supportive friendships look like. And, we have people in our lives, right? For a lot of different reasons, and our relationships have boundaries. What have you learned out of this?
I think in terms of what I've learned, I mean, I am always down for having a difficult conversation, but I think because of everything that's going on right now, like, you know, I talked about it with a couple of white friends who I knew were trying to do the right thing. And I explained to them that perspective, and they were like really grateful. But I couldn't have that conversation 20 times, you know? So that's why I wrote the piece. And what I've overwhelmingly heard from Black people who I know and a lot on Twitter who I don't know is just like, thank you for writing this. I've been trying to find the words to capture this experience, and I haven't. And like, you totally, like, you hit the nail on the head. So that has made me feel really good. But I also heard from white people or non-Black people who were like, you know, I had not realized that this well-intentioned thing that I'm doing is putting more of a burden on you and on my friends. So thank you also for writing that. And I was pretty nervous. You know, you never know what's going to happen on the internet. And like, a lot of people read the cut. And I, as a radio person, am not used to people like writing things for platforms where people actually read. Like,
no kidding.
Like every show or radio station has a website, but it's like people don't go there to read per se. So it was just a nerve-wracking experience, but I've been really thankful that it's been overwhelmingly positive response and that it seemed to really resonate and kind of start a conversation for people.
Oh, absolutely. Very, very timely, Priska. I really, really appreciate you chatting with me about this today.
Yeah, this was fun.
Seattle Now is produced by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Clare McGrane, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.